Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for another webinar featuring one of our great customers here at Adaptiiv. Today, we have folks from Inova Schar Cancer Institute with us to present on their experience using bolus and 3D printed bolus and adaptive software at their center, as well as a case study using 3D printed modulated electron bolus. So I'm Rohit Seth. I'm the Director of Marketing here. If you've attended our past webinars, you know who I am. I'll be moderating the session along with Bryson Dietz, clinical medical physicist with our team. And I'll let Bryson say a few words about himself.
Sure thing. Thanks, Rohit. So my name is Bryson Dietz. I'm a PhD physicist from the University of Alberta. I'm also a clinical solutions specialist with Adaptive Medical Technologies, and I'm happy to be here today.
Thanks, Bryson. And yeah, we're pleased to have Emmanuel Negusi and Hossein Datka from Inova Schar with us. And we'll let them say a little bit about themselves now, and then they'll take you through the presentation today. And yeah, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please don't hesitate to type them in the chat window, and we'll try to get to all of them at the end of the presentation.
I'm Emmanuel Negusi. I'm a medical dosimetrist at Inova. I've been working at Inova for about 4 years now. And I have a total of 7 years clinical experience in medical dosimetry, including photon, proton, cyberknife, and intra-op LDR treatment planning. And for my educational background, I have a Master's of Science degree in medical dosimetry from University of Wisconsin and Bachelor's of Science degree in radiation therapy from Virginia Commonwealth University. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Hossein Datka. I am a medical physicist at Inova Schar Cancer Institute, Department of Radiation Oncology. I've been here for 2.5 years as a medical physicist. And before Inova, I was at University of Chicago for the training in medical physics. And I have a PhD in biomedical engineering from the University of Iowa. The research and the thesis mainly focus on the directionally modulated brachytherapy. And my background is in mechanical engineering.
So today I'll be presenting a case study about an electron treatment of a nose with 3D printed modulated bolus. I will start out by giving a brief introduction about Inova and the different type of boluses we use within our clinic. Then I'll move on to the case study. So Inova is Northern Virginia's leading nonprofit healthcare provider. We have 5 radiation oncology departments. Our team consists of 12 radiation oncologists, 20 physicists, and 16 dosimetrists, and we're constantly growing. We treat over 200 patients daily, and we have 2 IBA proton machines on 9 variant linear accelerator machines, and 1 accurate cyberknife treatment machine. And we have a total of 6 CT scanners that we use for simulation, and 1 GE radiation oncology dedicated MRI machine. And we also have a very extensive HDR, LDR, and IORT program. So we have various types of boluses that we use in our clinic, which includes wet towel. We use this mainly for irregular surfaces and large areas, such as breast and chest wall. And we also use superflap for flat areas like chest and abdomen. And for air cavities that needs filling, like nose and ear, we use Vaseline gauze. And we use Aquaplast for curved surfaces, mainly for proton treatments, for lesions like scalp and extremities. And finally, we have a 3D printed bolus that we use for irregular surfaces, mainly for electron treatments. So we're currently using 3D printed boluses primarily for modulated electron radiation therapy treatments. This includes superficial lesions on irregular surfaces like nose and ear, and superficial lesions with underlying OARs, organs at risk like scalp. We have 2 treatment planning systems we use to generate these plans, which are Eclipse and RayStation. And we also use Adaptiiv's 3D bolus software for modulated electron bolus treatment plans. And we have an in-house Axiom 20 3D printer that we use to print out 3D bolus. And we also use Adaptiiv's On Demand service for highly modulated and very irregular boluses, or if a flexible bolus is clinically preferred. So moving on to the case study, this is a gentleman with a squamous cell carcinoma of the left nasal bridge. A patient has a history of extensive sun exposure and multiple prior resected skin cancers. He was initially assessed by a dermatologist who recommended surgical resection. He therefore underwent Mohs resection with negative radial margin and positive deep margin that could not be cleared surgically. So as a result, adjuvant radiation therapy was recommended. And we thought this patient was a perfect candidate for 3D modulated bolus given the lesion's location. And obviously with 3D bolus, we can produce a better fitting and more reproducible bolus with reduced air gap and consistent density, which can't really be achieved with a super flap or wet towel. In addition, with 3D modulated bolus, we can generate a conformal dose distribution that can help with reducing dose to close by organs such as tear ducts, eyes, and lenses. So we simulated this patient with in head first spine supine position and made a mask to immobilize the head. We cut off the mask around the face, where in the general area where the bolus would be placed, and wires were placed around the lesion by the radiation oncologist to help with the target control.
So if I could just interrupt, we just had a question coming from the audience.
Yes.
And they're just wondering if the wires were manually removed from the body contour prior to generating the body contour itself.
Yes, so the wires were removed for the most part. Some part of it is included within the body contour to keep a smooth body contour. But yeah, for the most part, the wires were removed from the body contour.
Thank you.
So once the CT dataset was imported in the planning system, the radiation oncologist contoured the target based on the wires. The plan was then generated in Eclipse using 9 MeV electron energy, and it was prescribed to 60 gray and 32 fractions. A black was then created with a uniform 1 cm margin around the CTV, except by the orbits. The orbits were completely black, as you can see in this image here. In addition to that, an extra shield of lead black was ordered to be placed on the patient surface in order to protect the tear ducts, eyes, and lenses. So Adaptiiv's 3D bolus software was used to generate the modulated 3D bolus. We were able to produce a plan that had a similar target coverage and global maximum dose as the conventional electron plan. The hotspot correction tool in the 3D bolus software was specifically, we found it being very helpful when it came to reducing the maximum dose in this plan. It helped us drop the hotspot by approximately 7% from the initial modulated bolus plan without compromising too much coverage and conformity. So at the end, we were able to generate a plan that has a similar maximum dose as the conventional electron plan that we used as a reference. The biggest difference between the modulated electron and conventional electron plans was the dose conformity. As you can see in this image, with the modulated bolus, we were able to achieve a much better conformal dose distribution than that of the conventional electron plan seen on the left side here. And the final 3D bolus was customized further in Eclipse to leave room for the lead black placement. So basically, we shaved off the bolus around the orbits in the area where the physician wanted to place the extra shield of lead blacks. So we printed 2 copies of the bolus, one in-house using a standard PLA material, and another copy was printed through Adaptiiv On Demand service using a TPU material. And the main differences between the two boluses were that the PLA bolus, shown in white here, was very rigid and had some rough surfaces near the superior edge of the nose in this region. And we think this was mainly due to the ridge that was created around the orbit. On the other hand, the TPU bolus was more flexible and has smoother surfaces.
Manuel, thank you for that. I'd just like to point out that the Adaptiiv On Demand service is something new that we're offering here at Adaptiiv. And it's in comparison to in-house 3D printing, which can be done at your center. The Adaptiiv On Demand service is something where you design the bolus as you would in our software at your center. And then it is printed off-site by our digital manufacturing partner and then shipped directly to the center. Our turnaround time is within 3 to 5 business days, but it's usually closer to 3 days. I don't know, Emmanuel, if you had any experience in the time turnaround in receiving the bolus.
So we actually received the bolus within 3 days, as promised.
Great, thank you.
So we brought the patient back for a final verification CT scan with the printed boluses. And the purpose of this verification scan was to assess the bolus placement and account for any air gap or bolus density uncertainties for the final treatment plan. And on the day of the verification scan, custom dead blocks were made to fit tightly within the bolus. And they were wrapped in the wax to reduce electron backscatter. So both images were imported in the treatment planning system and evaluated individually. Some air gap was noted on both boluses. We think this was mainly due to the body contour design around the wires. If you remember, I mentioned earlier that the patient was simulated wires to help with target contouring. And there was a question about if we included the wires in the body contour. So during the planning process, we manually removed the wires from the body contour for the most part, but had to include it in some areas to maintain a smooth body contour. It was also hard to make out the true body contour around the wires due to the artifact they were producing. So to avoid this issue, we're currently scanning our 3D bolus patients twice with and without wires. The plans are being done on the scan without the wires, but the target contours are being delineated, guided by the wire scan. In addition to the air gap, the bolus densities were evaluated on this verification scans. Both boluses had uniform density all around, I'll say an average of about 50 Hz per unit for the TPU bolus and 150 Hz per unit for the PLA bolus.
I just had another question roll in regarding that. And they're just wondering, in terms of material commissioning, how did you determine the relative electron density for each material? And was the commissioning an extensive process, or was it something you found fairly simple?
Yeah, I can answer this question. Basically, it's very important to take into account that each material has its own specific density and electron density, I think. So the commissioning should be material specific. And what we did for the material is that we actually printed some test cases, simple test cases. And once we scanned, make sure that in terms of consistency, there's no air gap in between the layers, and it's consistently printed. Then we use the average HU value in the CT images that we see in our treatment planning system. Then the HU value we converted to the relative electron density using the CT to relative electron density curve. So basically, the very first step is to make sure that you have some slabs or some simple printed slabs with the same material with a consistent density inside. and it's scanned exactly the same protocol that you scan your patient, and then import the scan into your TPS and take the average of the HU.
So the initial plan was copied onto the verification scans, and the dose was computed, accounting for the air gaps and bolus density. And as you can see in this image, both boluses maintained coverage and dose uniformity. However, the global max dose went up by approximately 2% inside the bolus, which was clinically acceptable since the maximum dose within the patient tissue was similar to the original plan. And also the verification plans show that both boluses were dosimetrically and clinically acceptable. The TPU bolus was selected to be used for this treatment, and this was mainly due to its quality. And I would also like to mention that the patient was comfortable with both boluses and didn't complain about their placement or how they felt on the scan. And on the first day of treatment, the physician assessed and verified the treatment field light on the patient's scan and bolus, and that field light was marked used for daily setup. So the red lines you see here are the field lines from the machine. And CBCT was used once a week to verify patient setup and position. So overall, we were very satisfied with the outcome of this treatment plan. We believe we gained a lot by using modulated 3D bolus electron treatment instead of conventional electron treatment with the wet towel and super flap. With 3D bolus, we were able to customize an area for the lead sheet placement, and we were able to improve the target conformity through bolus modulation, and we were able to reduce the possible air gap by customizing patient-specific 3D printed bolus. Air gap could have been significantly higher with other boluses such as super flap, and finally we were able to provide a consistent bolus density for accurate dose delivery, which couldn't really be achieved with other boluses such as a wet towel. So that concludes my presentation. Is there any question?
All right. Thank you so much, Sain and Emmanuel, for that great presentation. Really nice to see 3D printed bolus being used effectively to improve treatment and patient experience. So a couple questions have rolled in, so let's get to those now. And in the essence of time, we'll try to get to them all, but if we don't, we'll follow up with all attendees with answers to any outstanding questions. So the first one here is, how did the radiation therapist find the placement of the bolus in placing it? Was it taped to the patient or simply placed on the surface and left there without any tape or other materials used?
So the feedback we got from the radiation therapist was that bolus was easy to place and it perfectly fits the patient. Both the bolus and the lead shields were taped to each other and also to the mask to keep them in place after they were appropriately placed in position.
So having experience with both the PLA in-house printed bolus and the TPU Adaptiiv On Demand, which do you prefer and why?
Would you like to answer that, Hussein?
Yes. So basically, I think it depends on the site of treatment and like patient experience. So sometimes you're treating some patients with a scar. Probably like it's hard to tolerate the rough surface or coarse surface bolus. It's better to go with TPU and with the on-demand service. But at the same time, the in-house works faster actually for you. You don't have any delay. It accommodates pretty much better to your workflow, and it's more efficient. I would say like I would definitely go with the first try, like with my in-house printer. And I would assess the 3D bolus that's already designed in the software, basically based on my previous experience that I had the printing. So if I see so much irregularity, I would anticipate some complication with the in-house, but still I would try it once, at least the same day. So it's very important. I think it's very case dependent, and also we take a look at. It's good for the physicists and dosimetrists to be present during the initial CT sim to see the patient and the site of the treatment, and even to communicate with the patient about the technology and the experience. Maybe you can prepare like a really simple sample material, show the patient. So I would say like it's case dependent, but still I would try first with the in-house printer.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. And I'd like to thank Emmanuel and Hussein again for their presentation today and for being great customers of Adaptiiv at Inova. Thank you. And yeah, we'll get to any of the outstanding questions via email follow-up here. So thanks to everyone for attending today, and enjoy the rest of your days.
Thank you.